Yo,
What's going on, man? You know what? I'm like old when it comes to stuff like this, man. I won't even
trust
lie to
me.
you. So,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm the same way. I didn't actually get into this world until whole quarantine,
okay, good,
because
good, cool.
this
So,
is weird. It's just weird altogether.
all right, cool. Well, I'm
Yeah,
not. I feel I'm not the only one. All right, cool.
yeah. Well, no, bro? How have you been? Just it's a year in quarantine. The world slowly opening up a little. Just how have you been personally
Yeah.
and
First of all, am
professionally
I
right
like?
now?
Is this like close to my face? I don't even know. It's crazy. I can't see, but no, it's been a crazy year, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping you can hear me, but
Yeah, I can hear
yeah,
you perfect.
there you go. So yeah, no, it's been a I always like to say for me, as much as it's been a roller coaster for a lot of people, for me somewhat of a blessing, man. I welcomed in the birth of my first child, so
Oh,
um,
congrats.
I
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, so I really just got to spend. I'm getting to spend this whole time like just in that bonding phase. So you know,
That's super dope. Yeah, it's like perfect timing too. Like, with
yep, yep.
quarantine and, having a child, it's like, because I feel like if it wasn't quarantine, you'd be in like busy and like making, you got to make more time, I feel, opposed to with quarantine, we kind of, had the perfect timing.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, it's just a reminder to everybody out there that there are definitely more important things in life to do when you slow down that like when you finally figure out, okay, cool, I'm gonna slow down a little something, and then you start realizing there's so many things around you that are important when you
Yeah.
decide to just sit down and pay attention to them, for sure.
No, definitely. One thing I want to talk about is, growing up in NYC.
Mhm.
I'm jealous of you because that's one of the places I always wish. I mean, I'm Chicago, but I love like being, I feel brought up in New York City or LA are just like the two hubs of, the country. They're the mecca of the entertainment industry. So how was
Gotcha.
it for you just growing up and kind of getting your feet wet, like to kind of dive into the music industry?
Man, I mean, listen, so I grew up in a place in New York called Washington Heights, so
Yep, I love
uptown.
Washington Heights.
Okay, so
Yes.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
so I mean, I spent the first 16 years of my life kind of in that area. And for me, it you know, everything in my life kind of played out the exact way it was supposed to for me to become who I am. And I think that there were certain things growing up um in New York, and they always say if you could survive like the New York grit, the grime
Yeah.
of it, then obviously you could make it anywhere. And so I had the perspective of growing up in Manhattan, right above Harlem and Washington Heights,
Hmm.
kind of gave me more of like a hustler's mentality, more or less. And then when I moved to Long Island when I was 16, 17 years old, and that convinced me that the world was bigger than just where I grew up at. And I was really like I remember the first time just seeing like the suburbs, and I'm like, man, like black people, could have homes with grass and
Hmm.
trees, and this is stuff that I didn't think existed growing up in Wash Heights. So yeah, I mean it's New York is just one of those places. If you're from here, you kind of know like it's, New York is a way of life. Being a New
Yeah.
Yorker is just being as a way of life, man, for sure.
Yeah, and it's so funny you say that, how like you didn't know about the suburb, because I was the same way. I was brought up in, the city life, and
Exactly.
you know what I'm saying? You kind of learn all the crazy stuff, and you're not knowing, like you know it, but you just when you don't see it enough, I feel like it's just like it's never there. You know what I'm saying? And then when you experience it, it's like, dang, it's a whole nother, like,
Exactly.
I like going there on the weekends, I'll say. I like to go visit a friend or a family member that lives out there, but it's such a different world. But one thing I was watching, just watching your story, and I mean, I remember
Hmm.
seeing you. I first seen you performed. Where did I see you at? B96 Summer Bash.
Okay.
One of the hugest
Nice.
lineups. It was like Toyota. It was like this huge soccer field he's performed at. I
Yeah.
mean, the lineup I remember was banana. It was
This
like
was in
you.
Chicago. Chicago.
This was Chicago.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Shout out
like
to
you,
Chicago for sure.
Rihanna. I think it was like Sean Paul. I think it was Paula Deanda. It was like tons
Yeah.
of people I remember.
Yeah.
But just your career in the beginning and how you got signed. Like that's crazy because that's kind of I kind of feel like unheard of today, and especially because today it's you don't have to be signed anymore. Where
Yeah.
when you came out, you kind of had to be signed to get distribution and
Hmm.
just get out there in the whole artist development and the radio stations. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, so, when I first started doing music, and for those who don't know my story, and I always like to tell it because it kind of it brings me to where I'm at in my life now today. When I first got introduced to music, I was 12, 13 years old. My mother, who passed away when I was 13, the last thing she actually bought me for my 13th birthday a couple of turntables and a DJ
yeah,
mixer. And when she passed away, I kind of dived into music. That was like a refuge for me. Like I immediately, said I need to get my mind off of the world and
yeah,
find something. So for me, music never, it was never I want to become an artist, get rich, blow up and get rich. That was never my thing. Um, it was always, I enjoyed doing music. It brought me to a special place, and I had love for it. And then, like I said, when I transitioned from Washington Heights to moving to Long Island, that's where I kind of was able to see other people who were interested in doing
yeah.
music, and then that's kind of where I got convinced that it could be an actual business. And I think I was around 18 or 19 when I signed my first production deal, is what we call it.
Okay.
And it was a great learning situation for me. And in that situation, I got to put out a record in Canada that went gold.
Yeah,
That was produced by a producer by the name of Dirty Swift. And I got my first taste of like what fame or
yeah,
what that lifestyle would be. And then I was convinced, like, okay, cool, I could do this. And then there was like a 5 year like starving artist period. And when I say starving artist, like as crazy as it sounds, that I always tell people that was the most fun I've ever had in my career was during that time because there were no expectations. Like I didn't have the expectation to say, man, you always live with the thought that, oh, you can blow up and become famous, but the expectation was just to go out and have fun every night.
yeah,
Um, and I think for me, um, when things started finally to mature in my career, and I don't want to skip any moments. Like I really
yeah.
kind of want to touch on everything. But when
Hmm.
I decided to put a project together, put a record out. I think the first record I pushed was a record called "I Did You Wrong," um, and then I ended up pushing obviously the record "This Is Why I'm Hot," and prior to that, I've been told no by every single label. Every single label, didn't want to sign another artist from New York. Everything that was hot at that time was coming from somewhere else, whether it be
Yeah,
Chicago, whether it be St. Louis or Miami. So I'd like to say that I was blessed enough to be able to build a foundation independently, and then eventually it came a point in time where I actually had to do a deal with a label to kind of take my career, to another place.
yeah.
So,
But
mhm.
like what did it feel like? Like you said, you already had two singles out before, but when This Is When I'm Hot, and like you said, you got signed from that because you were the buzz of, what I'm saying, like your
Mhm.
city, and you're at the Mecca, New York. I mean, anyone that thinks United States, they
Yeah,
think, New York City. That's the, what I'm
yes, sir.
saying? Like, how did it feel even before it even went to number one, but just like the buzz and like people talking and because it had to be so, you were young still,
Yeah.
you were living the life. Like,
You
that's
know what?
everyone's dream.
I didn't get to feel it.
You know?
So anybody who knows me knows, and I see a few people in the chat, man, that know like that period of time. They know
Yeah.
how much work I put in during that time, and I didn't really get to feel it. Like I didn't have time to like stop and say, damn, all of this stuff is coming together. I think um, if I had to rewind and think like when I first realized what my first realization of what an accomplishment would be would have been the day that I had enough money in my bank account to never have to worry about money, and
Yeah.
that was like okay, and then after that, and I think that came early in my career. Then after that,
Hmm.
it was like okay, everything else is just a blur, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's tough to say because when things when everything aligns the correct way, and when there's so many people involved with trying to, especially through something as hard as get a record to go number one,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people involved in that. There's a lot more people than myself involved, and my goal was to literally wake up every day and just do as much work as I can. So I don't know if I've ever realized like the capacity of how big things were during the time that that they were moving.
Yeah, no, and also like you got to experience. I feel like artists today, it's just not there anymore. Like TRL, the 106 in
Yeah,
Parks. You got to like that was my everyday coming home. You know what I'm saying? Like after
yeah.
school, you watch 106 in Park, you watch TRL. Those were like the two shows. Like, what are some of your memories from just being on those type of shows? Because we don't have them anymore. You know, all we have is like more like news shows almost like Good Morning America, Today's Show, those will always be around.
Yeah,
We don't have like the straight up like
the
music
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 dedicated
show.
shows. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, no, I think with the feeling that I had when you obviously, I mean, when you grow up watching TRL and you grow up watching, MTV and
Hmm.
BET and then 106 in Park is something you aspire to do as an artist, and you can watch it during your starving artist period. The minute that you actually step on stage in front of those cameras, it definitely is a surreal feeling. And now I feel like I dedicate a lot of my time to try to push the culture forward.
Yeah.
So because a lot of things are missing, and obviously I'm in technology space now.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to add that nostalgic feeling, or what that will be today and tomorrow, as opposed to what it was for us in the past. So yeah, I mean, great moments, and memories from doing TRL. Till this day, I actually turn on the TV, and when I see uh not well, it was Regis and
Oh,
Kelly at the
it's
time, but
yeah,
it's
now it's Kelly
Kelly
and Ryan.
Kelly and yeah, and Ryan. But I remember doing that show in the morning. Shout out to my boy Bad Seed. We actually did the show and then jumped on the flight and went to LA right after. But that show to me is surreal because I still watch it now and I'm like, yo, I performed
Yeah.
for this, and so there's definitely certain things that I'm I put in the vault and I say,
Right.
damn, it's been a great accomplishment and I'm happy.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I want to ask you, like you said, it was such a blur because you were doing so much. I know when you're to a label, they run you where you
Mhm.
ain't you're like a machine, basically. You know what I'm saying? To them,
Oh
you,
yeah,
you,
we could talk about that.
you
Yeah,
know
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
listen,
Like,
I mentor a lot of artists nowadays, and I try to give them advice, and sometimes I could see an artist, and I'm like, man, are you ready? Like, I'll ask if they're ready, because what they don't realize is there's one artist, and then there's like
hmm
15 other people that work with the artist to help the artist cultivate their career, and at any given time, you're being handed off every day. So
yeah,
every day you're going through 10, 15 people to do something. There are legit days where you'll go 23 hours of work, 1 hour sleep when you're on a flight, just to catch a flight to somewhere quick, so you can go back and do 23 more hours of work. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's why I say it's all a blur, because to get to that point in that capacity of what people consider success in that realm, um, it takes a lot of work for sure.
yeah. Because I just look back and me being younger at that time, I was still old enough to know, but like now I'm old enough to kind of like really understand and just hear so many artist stories about how when you're with the label, you're literally like go go go. I mean, you can't go to family parties, you can't go to any events. It's just kind of like you're theirs in a way.
Yeah, yeah, and then the worst part is that like it takes a toll on you, because then you get tired, and you don't even eat properly when you're on the road. I mean, it's so many stories I have of just like, because I try not to eat the fast food and stuff like that, but it's
Yeah,
it can be rough. It's not all glamored and glitz like the videos like to
yeah,
portray. Working in the industry is definitely a job for the strong-hearted, I guess. A lot of people
hmm
can't survive, and then you got to deal with the ridicule from public attention. So like,
yeah,
sometimes, which is why now, like, I'm even surprised to be doing this, because the truth of the matter is that I'm not. I like to be really, really behind the scenes, man. So
yeah. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. But another thing that's so crazy when I was watching your special with Finding on BET,
Yeah.
I thought it was so interesting how it's so different today. How you were talking about, okay, you had a number one song on your first album, and then they were complaining about the sales of the full LP.
Yeah.
But in realization today, them sales are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it blows my mind because back then it was like, oh, if you didn't sell 500K in the first week, you were kind of like, oh, what are you doing wrong? And now that's kind of certain artists do it today, but most
Hmm.
artists, it's like 100,000 is kind of like the norm or under. It's so weird. What are your thoughts on that now?
I mean, it's just progression. That's what it is. I mean, I predicted, and I still stand by it. I mean,
Yeah,
I've said it in interviews. In 2008, my prediction was that at some point in time, the technology would supersede the music industry and take over, and there were certain things that were bound to happen. And one of the biggest things and the biggest changes was going from physical um,
yeah,
LPs and albums to the digital era, and it was bound to happen. And I think for me, it's almost like the person that you know comes out and says something really like crazy, and the world is looking like you could say something like, "Man, the sky's falling down. There's an asteroid coming," and the world will be like, And I think eventually, I think it didn't take long for people to realize that the focus on trying to sell physical CDs, um, compared to where the digital world was going,
yeah,
was just two different directions.
yeah,
And I don't, I feel like, and I won't take credit for I won't take credit for anyone's careers taking off. What I will say is that I understood the trend, and I feel like I was a part of a new era of ushering new artists
yeah,
into that era, and having it be accepted. It maybe not with me, but who came to follow, it became the acceptance to where it wasn't about physical album sales. I think my second album, the first week, I think we did like, I want to say like 13,000 units, which like
hmm,
at that time was like, whoa, like
yeah,
13,000 physical albums. That's a bomb. Like the album went bad, but I think if when you equate the digital side and what I was able to accomplish digitally between both albums, still to this day,
yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah, and it's awesome though. Like you were saying, you got to experience because I was thinking about that too. Like really, between 2000, probably seven and 2010, that's when the transition was. I feel like the biggest from you were saying physical copies to everything was kind of digital. Not completely, like you said, CDs were still available, but that's when
Yeah,
like iTunes came into play, like
Steve Jobs.
hardcore. Yeah, Steve
I
Jobs.
I say if there's one person who had the biggest impact in the music industry, I would never put it on an artist. You can give your favorite artist, and I would say it's the biggest person in music was Steve Jobs when he invented the
Yeah,
iPod on
yeah,
iTunes and the iPod. Single-handedly changed the way music was bought, and it also respectfully changed the way music was sold. Because if you think about during that time and era, record labels could say, they could sell a CD for whatever they wanted. If the record was hot, they could
hmm,
sell it for $20, $25. What Steve Jobs did was he said, you know what? We don't want to sell whole albums. We can sell music by the singles, and then it forced, and then people got hip to the game and started saying, well, okay, my single, instead of me selling it for $5.99, which is what you would buy a single for, now
yeah,
it's only $1.29.
yeah.
And if you don't get on this platform, you're gonna be left behind. So Steve Jobs, thank you. Like he ruined it. He ruined and helped the music business at the same time, for sure.
Yeah, and another thing I feel like a lot of people didn't put in consideration at that time, a lot of music stores were closing by then. That's when
Yeah,
like they were slowly, like Tower Records were slowly going. Virgin Records were slow, Virgin Megastore was slowly closing. Like I think like New York was one of the last ones open until in Times Square, and then that
yeah,
closed, and it was like the end of an era of, the whole like you were saying physical copies. There's
yeah.
rare.
It sounds like
It's
you should be doing a documentary on this, man, for sure.
I know, right? It's like, cause see, like I'm a hardcore fan of like the physical. Like I remember when your first album came out, I went and copped that right away.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
you know what I'm
appreciate that.
saying? Yeah, like that was, I was a fan, and it's just so weird. But with the second album, how was it just, like you were saying, had such a big single? Were you nervous? Because I know the label, I'm sure, has so much in your ear. They're telling you, we gotta surpass it. Everyone's nervous about the sophomore album. How was it
Yeah.
for you?
Um, you know what? I would have to take you back to the first album to
Okay.
really understand where my mind was on the second one. First album, um, lead single, "This Is Why I'm Hot." Follow-up single was "Like This."
Hmm.
We probably collectively as a team, um, my team and the label combined, sold over, I want to say 15, $16 million in
Yeah.
sales and in music sales. My first
Oof.
check didn't look that great. Um, and I think this is 2007 now. I mean 2008, obviously, and
Hmm.
then I was hit with the task to go back in the studio and record another project, knowing that I was trying to really figure out how to account for the money that I was never paid. And I think
Yeah.
when an artist is faced with that, no matter what, um, I don't know if it affected the music, but it definitely affected the motivation. Like I wasn't motivated to go on the road. I mean, I had
Yeah.
literally spent 365 days, 23 hours a day on the road for a whole year, pushing an album that I thought did phenomenally well. And then when you get hit with this check, and it's time to divvy up the money, it's almost like well, what am I going back out for?
Yeah. What's the
Um,
point? Like,
Exactly. So I think going into album two, the music itself, I had a great time working on the second album. To me, it embodied a lot more of where I wanted my direction to go.
hmm
But I think me going out on the road again and spending so much time away from friends, family, and things of that nature, I feel like that was what affected me going into album
yeah.
two, and it eventually, honestly, after maybe shortly after album two, I decided I never wanted to commercially release music again, and that was a
Yeah.
decision I made. And some of my people are kind of upset about that, but I decided that wasn't for me because I really felt like where music came from for me and my reason for doing it. um, I felt like it got jaded by all of the industry nonsense,
hmm
that so much so that I decided to just stay away and just keep that part of my life for myself until I feel comfortable putting something out again.
Well, no, and that makes complete sense because it's like, how could you stay focused on a second project when you're trying to figure out your money? And like you said, it's not like
Yeah,
you just had a minor single. You had one of the biggest singles, one of the biggest albums of that. And like you said, the amount of money it made for
yeah,
people,
it's
record
crazy.
level execs, it blows my mind. It's like,
And I say this, the label. There's a lot of people that work at labels that are
yeah.
amazing, and I think the way it's supposed to be designed is that, like I said, you have this huge team of people, that are pushing in one direction. I think the problem with the music industry is not the people who appreciate the culture. I think the
hmm
problem is, and not for lack of better words, it's the attorneys that sit in floor
Yeah.
five, or top floor of the building, and you need a key to get to that floor, and they decide when they look at numbers, and they try to balance books and bury
hmm
bones and whatever it is they do, that you're disposable as an artist because they don't want to make the effort to doing right by you by paying you, or um, I think that's what affects the actual music
Yeah.
industry. So for me, I not to play like I would say, like, not to make the music industry or music record label seem like evil empire, because it's not designed to be that way.
Yeah.
But I think it just happens to be that way because some
Yeah.
people, it's their job to bury the bones. I
Yeah.
like to say.
No, definitely. And your music video for Move If You Wanna, I think was one of the dopest videos like over the
Thank
past
you.
20 years. How I just wanted to ask you, like, how was that video made? Like how
Yeah.
like the guys were flipping back, like it was just and then like walking and how was that whole process of that video? 'Cause I think it's still one of the top videos in my mind.
Yeah, no, was a great video that I was able to do. My first two videos were shot by a director by the name of Dale Restaghini.
Hmm.
Shout to Dale. He's an amazing director. Um, and I've obviously, you know, built a great relationship with him going into the second album. The label, they wanted a different vision, so they wanted to use another director. And I didn't have in mind what I want to do, but I just knew that I wanted to use. I'm technologically driven, so I wanted to use this camera called the Phantom camera. And with the Phantom camera, and it's still to this day, it's a popular camera for slow motion. And
Okay.
the capabilities of how many frames per second that camera shoots is amazing. So I wanted to kind of do something with that. And the first concept I had for the video, believe it or not, like I wanted to recreate the whole Thriller vibe. Um,
Okay.
but but when I came up with the treatment, it was so out of budget that everybody looked at me like I was crazy. So we kind of had to tone it down a little bit, and I still got to use the Phantom camera. And I forgot the director. I hate to not miss his name. I'll look it up later. But we locked in. We saw the treatment from him, and he said he could put it together and make the camera work for us. So the camera is the reason why you see all those cool effects of people flipping while I'm
Yeah.
moving at regular speed. So it was great, man. And a lot of people actually came out to support that shoot. We did it in LA. You know, it was a great video, and still to this day, yeah, one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, it was just a super dope. Like it was so crisp, like just the scenes and just yeah, it was super dope. And the song super dope. So like
Dope.
just meshed well how like the beat went with the people and yeah, it was super dope. But
Appreciate it.
yeah, yeah, like you were saying though, you know, you toured that whole year of literally, like you saying, it just go, go, go. What what were not just touring, but like what are some I guess two questions.
Mhm.
What was the favorite the I guess the best stage you performed at worldwide, and then what was
Ooh.
like one of the best award shows because you got to go to award shows and events that were actually good. Today,
Yeah.
it's it's a different ball game.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, the best stage I've ever rocked, and I'm being really biased because I'm from New York, was the old Giant Stadium. We did Summer Jam, '07 or '08, I'm not sure the year. For me, obviously, because of being from New York and being able to take stage at Summer Jam has always been,
It's
like a
iconic.
dream. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's who doesn't
Um,
think of that when you think of New York summer concerts? Like,
Exactly. So the
yeah,
only the only venue that I think would ever top that is if I was able to play Madison Square Garden, and I was never able to do that during obviously that time of my career. So
mhm.
maybe that's something that can come later on. Who knows? But Giant Stadium definitely. And then the second question, what was it again? Because I
Like
want to.
what event, like either award show that because like I
Yeah,
feel like when you first came out, that's when award shows were still good and like events like timeless performances happened and
yeah.
timeless artists were there. You know what I'm
I'll tell you
saying?
this much. I hated the award shows. And I think I probably speak the sentiment, the same thing for a bunch of people. The way I didn't realize how much, I guess, editing or
Yeah.
goes into to when you're actually from when you're sitting there to when you're actually watching it. When you're watching it from home, there's a certain sort of entertainment. When you're sitting there in the crowd, you're literally just sitting there,
So
and then like
I
you
have heard
know
that. I
you
have
you
heard that from a
you
lot of
get to,
people.
yeah. So I mean, it wasn't as enjoyable as I thought it would be. There were definitely like I know I did Nick Cannon. We did Wildin' Out in Mexico. So that was pretty cool when we did that with
Yeah.
MTV. I did was it remember the show Super Sweet 16,
Yeah, that was huge.
which was pretty cool too, because that was a really quick performance, but just the concept of these things, like these shows that don't exist anymore, like you said, you know, to me, um, those those are probably some of the ones that stick out.
Yeah, it's super dope. But no, I want to ask you, like, I know, like you were saying, you wanted to figure out your money situation. You wanted to know, like, and I know you wanted the litigation. So how was that whole process of getting down? Because I feel like a lot of artists don't do that. A lot of artists are
Yeah,
like, oh, it'll come second album. Okay, second album comes, still not getting the money. Let's do third album. Hopefully it'll come then. And then it just never comes. And then like they're screwed after so many records and they're so far
yeah.
along. It's too far to go backwards. So how was it for you just to kind of get that situated?
Yeah, I mean, it's two ways of looking at it, you know. So a lot of artists, I think, they have to be faced with two different decisions, right? So
Hmm.
it's do you take it on the chin and keep it moving, so that you hope that one day, eventually, it catches up, and you could feel suffice about what it is you make, or you could do what I did. And I think for me it was more of a principle thing and morals, and my
Yeah.
principles wouldn't allow me to feel like I was a slave to a
Yeah.
scenario. So I decided to take a step back. Yeah, I did. I went through a 7 year litigation. We decided to go pursue from a legal standpoint, not the outcome that I would have wanted, but I'm still happy that I took that route, because it taught me a lot about the actual industry.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that for me, that's the knowledge is the power, right? So the knowledge is the part that when you learn from something, that's how you can design a system to where it doesn't happen again, not just to me, but to other people. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely you know, I'm more of a principle person. I don't care how
Hmm.
much money you waving in my face, to keep moving. If it's not what I thought I was gonna get, we can't. I'm not rocking with you. Like, that's just
Yeah.
how I look at it. So yeah, I mean, but to each his own. I'm not knocking the artists that keep fighting and pushing, because I'm assuming that every single artist somewhere along the lines in their career have been in a position
Yeah.
of feeling undervalued. And shout out to those who've gone through that adversity and made a difference. But damn, I'm an Aries. It's tough. Like, principle for me is it always gonna beat out the money side for sure,
Yeah,
always.
and it's so crazy hearing about so many minority artists get the short end of the stick. You don't hear it so much from, like, that's the other crazy part where I feel like it's still not right. Like, when will it ever be right? I feel not everyone, but I'm saying you hear it a lot from, Black, Hispanic,
Yeah,
any minority. It's more like the money's always messed up some way, somehow along, down the
yeah.
line.
I think that the simple, right? We don't. And this is probably a deeper conversation than we got to dive into. But I've heard so many people talk about it, and it's the truth. The truth is that, um, my community, we tend not to have a lot of ownership and stuff.
Yeah.
So we didn't own the distribution companies. We didn't own the tractor trailers that drove the CDs to the stores. So
Hmm.
we were always, and at that time we were always in reliance of someone else doing the math for us. Um, so I mean, the only thing I've always questioned is for those who have made it and gotten to that stature, why did they turn around and buy these companies out,
Yeah.
or start something else? What we did, but like I said, 2007, it didn't matter because distribution changed single-handedly at that time,
Yeah.
and I think what it did was it evened the playing field. So for people like myself who had the ability, um, to utilize like technology to help their career catapult, and then you see it today. And I think that that's
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it, right? So like
Hmm.
the tables are balancing right now, and people are actually making amazing careers out of being independent and staying independent, and then deciding to do the label deal when they have a little bit more power. So for me,
Exactly.
um I'm happy to see that we've actually been here. I think the next step is what I'm working on, which is having ownership in the technology platforms
Yeah,
now,
it's
so that
huge.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's what I want to ask you. Like you were saying, after Guilt was released, what was what was the time exactly when you were like, "Hey, I want to take a break from this"? 'Cause like you said, you weren't happy.
Yeah,
And like you said, if your mind's not there, it's like you're not passionate about it, so it's understandable. Like you said, yeah, you may get some people upset, but you got to be true to yourself.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like when exactly was that for you? And then when did you know, like, hey, I want to get in this tech game and kind of, figure it out and create something like you have Creator, like that's
Yeah.
huge. It's a huge app.
I think 2009, 2010
Okay.
was like that pivotal year for me, and I'll tell you why. I was I when I asked to be released from the label,
Hmm.
and originally they weren't going to do it. Um, and I think my third album, if they didn't release me, they would have had to give me another $1 million+. Um, and I'm sure at that point in time they realized that the relationship was severed, especially if you immediately go into litigation with them. And then I remember getting out of that situation, and I was being approached by other labels to do something with, and I just wasn't feeling it. I felt like at that time, like I said, I enjoyed being on the road. I enjoyed touring, and I wanted to give myself enough time to really decide if I wanted to re enter the game with a new
Yeah.
scenario, new situation. Um, and I think a year goes by, and I still don't feel good about it. 2 years go by, I don't feel good about it. So I think around 2010 is when I said, "Yo, I gotta like, I want to do something different, and
Hmm.
I want to push the culture forward, and I want to be able to be a part of something that I wouldn't have seen myself doing." And that's when I kind of decided to get into technology, and me, and the same people I came up with, my business partners, you know, we all pivoted. Like,
Yeah.
we all decided, "Yo, okay, cool. We're gonna go that way. We're gonna go that way." And sure enough, that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, and like I know you were talking about this on Finding. How was it? Like you were talking about like being in front of these huge tech people. Like it's a whole different ball game. And I
Yeah,
think you won an award. Not an award. Like it was like a donation for your brand.
yeah.
So it was like a
Um,
prize. What was it? It was
well,
for
well,
something at NYC.
yeah, you're
Um,
talking about
yes,
TechCrunch
yes,
Disrupt, which was a huge accolation for being, um, I guess being recognized as the tech startup of the year. Which
yeah,
TechCrunch is the biggest tech publication there is,
yeah.
really. So we won that competition, and we got recognized as the biggest tech startup. Now I want to say something. I take you back, like just
Hmm.
from a knowledgeable standpoint. I remember, and I want to say this is like 2008, 2009. I remember going to MTV, and I sat. It was a, I guess it was a I don't know what kind of meeting it was. Someone set it up, and I was sitting down with someone who had just invented this tech where it was like a virtual world with virtual people,
Yeah.
and they were buying virtual merchandise, and like they was. I think I had went into the room to do like a virtual meet and greet, and they were selling virtual MIMS hats and things like that. And I remember saying, "Well, who the hell wants to buy a digital MIMS hat? Like, what? That doesn't even make sense."
What's the point? Yeah.
Yeah, what's the point? And what I realized then is that, and this is not a bad thing because everybody's trying to do what they do, but what
Hmm.
this company did was they used my brand and my likeness to help create hype for their product. Um, and then I took a step back and I started to realize, well, damn, every single technology company is doing that. And then you got to take another step back and say, well, damn, how many African Americans have ownership of these companies? And I'm not just
Yeah.
talking about 1%, 2%. I'm talking about majority ownership. And then when I start seeing the big donut at this time, and like, okay, well, damn, there's really a disparity in the sense that there's not a lot of people from my world in that
Yeah.
world. Um, and I know we talked about this off thing where my reluctancy to using Instagram and why I'm like reluctant to use these apps is because it's the same thing for me. It's more, and shout to whoever invents it, and the Facebooks and the Instagrams, but but sometimes I kind of I've decided in my life that I like to use things or support things that whether it's from minority owned
Yeah.
business people, so to say the least, man. And I think um in technology, if everybody kind of thought like I did, and it's not a knock against Instagram. Like I said, I don't have anything against the Facebooks or the Instagram. Technology is what it is, and they just happen to be at the forefront. But if everybody kind of thought like I did, then we could create generational wealth.
Yeah.
This could be where we create generation, because
Hmm.
people want entertainers to sit, be the face of their company. So they should be able to allow us to sit on the board of their company and
Yeah.
have majority ownership. And I think that's why I'm here now.
Yeah, well, no, it's so
So
funny you say that because that's like the same thing when people say, "Yo, go cop the most expensive pair of Nikes," but you won't support a friend that's selling their own shoe. You know what I'm saying? If you
yeah,
support your own friend, your own family friends, you don't support them, but you'll
yeah.
support
You'll
a billion
support, yeah,
dollar business
exactly.
that's not minorities,
Yeah, yeah,
owned. It's
yeah.
like, yo,
Same
it's
thing.
come on. Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Same thing. Yeah. I mean, and within reason. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
if the sneakers don't look good, I get it. You know,
Yeah, no,
don't get me
exactly.
wrong. But if it is something that you could support
Or they
because
want the free. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? They're like, oh,
or
give me
they
a
want to.
free.
There you go.
I'm your friend. I'm your family.
Exactly.
No, support.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I tend to take the position of, yo, you know, even now till this day, if somebody sends something my way, what's the website? You know, because sometimes that's needed for them to understand. It's not, you know, we have to get to a point where we build, you know, our own system and our own generational wealth.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, it's not a knock toward any other
Yeah.
cultures, and it's not a knock to anyone. It's just the truth. That's all.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Mhm.
I know also last year you re-released This Is Why I'm Hot. What did that feel like and just getting it back out there? It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like I feel like 2007, 2008 was yesterday. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And it's
I know.
2021. I'm like, damn, it's almost close to 20 years ago, and I feel like it's a year, not even a year ago. How was it just releasing that again?
Um, you know what? I didn't do it on purpose.
Okay.
We did it because in my contract there's no re-record clause. So
Ah,
basically I can
nice.
re-record any record from any project that I've had, and I could re-release it. And it was just one of those things where I felt like, you know, if I can't account to where my money is coming from on that side, then and I need to you know, start releasing things that I know I can watch, and you know, my business partner decided that we should push it back out. I mean, it was for no other reason than that. I would hope one day that I could do it officially, like do a real official re-release of certain things. And I think I'm gonna be working on something quiet as kept real
Okay.
shortly for you know, for to appease my own soul, I guess,
Yeah.
to put out there.
Dope, dope. Well, I want to ask you too. I want to take all your time up. I know it's
Nah, it's all
Friday.
good.
It's Easter. It's Easter weekend. You know what I'm saying? It's Good Friday.
I'm
Um,
40 years old and I got a one year old, man. I'm not going anywhere, so it's cool.
well, I want to ask you, what is the future for yourself in the tech world? Would you say, and what's in the future for yourself, music world? Would you say that you've been thinking about?
Um, Tech world, you know, I want to conquer it, and then when I say
Yeah.
that, I mean, it's not easy. It's not an easy world to navigate in. But for me, what's more important than even my success in it is being able to convince other people watching me that they have the ability to do it. You know, so
Yeah.
like, you know, like I said, coming from whether it be New York, Washington Heights, Long Island, I mean, and I've been around the world, just watching people sometimes leading by example and showing them that it's a possibility is enough. Because for
Hmm.
me, it was when I went and saw the suburbs for the first time in my life. I'm like, yes, this is dope.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so I think for me in technology, I'm just going to try to keep pushing the narrative, which is, you know, um, just connecting with as many individuals as possible, creating as much innovation as possible, and then eventually, you know, hopefully, if one of them takes off, great. But if I'm allowed to just be the forefront of someone else's, like, yo, I can do it because
Yeah.
he did it, I'm cool with that.
Okay.
And music, I think um, it, it's still a fun factor for me. Like if I'm
Okay.
doing anything musically, it's really just for fun. Like I don't even want to ever engage in a conversation where it's okay, I got this record. How do we put it out and make money? Like I
Yeah.
really just would be like, yo, I got this record. Okay, cool. You know, let me let a few people hear it, and then you know, and then
Yeah.
see
For the
where it goes.
passion of it, not just. Yeah. I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And like, what do you think of the whole entertainment industry right now exactly, like especially music? It's so, like you were saying, it's so different on so many terms with all the technology, all the social media, like you're saying, the
Yeah,
TikToks. I mean, who
yeah,
would have ever thought TikTok would make a song blow up? Like
yeah. No,
it blows my mind.
that's dope. And it's funny because somebody, literally, what advice would you give an artist with little resources? And I think this is the question that can answer based on that.
Hmm.
I feel like with technology, it evens the playing field, and you know, this is your resource. You know, so
Yeah.
as crazy as it sounds, what I did back in the day, my whole understanding of marketing was I didn't care about a million people. I just cared about 10 loyal people. And once
Yeah.
I got 10 loyal people to rock with me, my next step was to get those 10 loyal people to get 10 loyal people.
Hmm.
And if 10 loyal people can come back from, now you start to deal with exponentially starting to bring it in. And I realized that, and this is where I got to give a lot of credit to other people. Your team, the people who are evangelizing for you and going out there spreading the word, if they got to be good, because it can't
Yeah.
always come. I mean, the artists can convince you with the music, and that's great. But if I have people, and I would say this to this day, that will kill for me, in the sense that if
Yeah.
you ever said anything bad about me, they'd be like, okay, cool, let's go out back.
Yeah.
So I think with technology now, what it is now you can kind of get people you've never even met, no matter what, all over the world, to evangelize for you, to say, yo, you're the hottest artist coming
Yeah.
out. Imagine this. Imagine, you in Chicago. Imagine you go to a sports bar out there or wherever, and then
Hmm.
somebody says, yo, you ever heard of this artist, so forth and so on, from so forth and so on. The conviction that you'd have to check that person out would be intensified over you, even you just discovering that person yourself. So
Yeah.
our ability to use technology in our favor is more prominent than it's ever been. And with resources like TikTok, with YouTube and other platforms, it's definitely all algorithmic based, but it's a possibility, and you could literally go from 0 to 100 in a matter
Yeah.
of a day or a night or whatever the case is nowadays, as compared to before, when you have technology at your fingertips.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's crazy. I would have never thought. I mean, I knew it would come sooner or later, but I just never thought certain apps like songs would blow up. Like that's how literally songs have gone number one today, which I would
Yeah,
have
yeah.
never. Before it
Oh
was all
yeah,
radio and club play.
yeah. You see, I know it's a lot going on with this brother, but you see Little Nas X and how he took
Yeah,
off with Old Town Road, or whatever the name's, Old Town
yeah,
Road, I believe. So yeah, it's different. Shout to the homie brother. I know you asked. Yeah, it's crazy because I'm seeing all these things come
yeah.
up, but
When
like, what's more important in entertainment industry? Loyalty or honesty? I would say honesty. I mean, they're both important, but honesty, isn't honesty a form of loyalty? I guess.
yeah,
So
because you're loyal because you're honest to that
yeah, yeah.
person. Yeah,
So
you
yeah.
ride for them.
Loyal people don't necessarily have to be honest, but honest people tend to usually be loyal. So I don't know.
Oh, it's so
That's a
funny. My boy Flick, right above him,
Yeah,
MIMS. I think he was the photographer that shot you when you were promoting. I don't know if you remember the Coke Lounge, like at WGCI.
Chicago.
Yeah, in Chicago. I think he
Yep.
took your shots. He was the photographer at that time. So
That's
yeah, it's
that's
fun.
uh that's I got that. I had a Yankee burgundy Yankee
Yeah, and you signed the
coat
big
on.
Coke bottle. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah, I
everyone had
remember that.
signed it.
I think
Yeah,
it's funny. I remember that day really clearly, really vividly, because I don't know if we did a show that time, but I was definitely promoting, I think, the second album
yeah,
that day. So yeah, man. Shout out to you, man. Photo Flick, man. Appreciate
yeah.
it.
But
And,
last
it's
thing.
crazy. I
Oh
want to
yeah.
say this.
Hmm.
I don't take pictures. So like whenever someone like uses a picture of me, they always use that picture. So I mean, shout out to you, because
Yeah.
if it wasn't for that, I'd just be like, they'd have to find pictures somewhere else, man. So man, shout out to you for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you though, what do you think of the whole verses? Because I'm pumped for this weekend for the verse of Earth, Wind, and Fire and Isley Brothers. Like that's going to be huge. And then like SWV and Escape's coming. There's been so many great ones so far. What do you think about them?
Yo, honestly, and it's once again my thing. This is I believe Versus is pushing the culture forward.
Yeah,
And I
I
think
love
the
it.
the dope thing about that is you know, I've had the opportunity to sit down with Timberland in regard to, like, my platform and what we're doing with Creator app,
Hmm.
and then to watch something like that go from the start of it to where it's at now, and then for them to be able to do deals with whomever, I look at that like a win for the culture.
Yeah.
And I think even with older catalog, one of the worst parts about hip hop, um, coming from the '90s into the 2000s, is that is that we're talking about a culture that no one ever praised to be like. When you figure when you're 40 years old, you could never be a rapper. And I think that that's what people say. Oh, you're 40 years old and rapping and this and that. And I think no one ever realized that hip hop is such a new culture.
Yeah.
That it's okay because rock and roll is they go out until they're 90 years old touring.
Yeah.
And I think that
Literally.
now we're starting to see that some of our heroes from the 90s are able to still survive and live because of technology. And when you're doing verses and you got Ghostface versus Raekwon,
Yeah.
and I'm tuned in. I mean, this is, to me, I think it's amazing for the culture, man. So shout to them for doing that for sure.
Yeah, I'm pumped, and I think it's so dope how they sold it and gave shares to each artist that participated so far. That's
Okay, yeah,
like,
I didn't know that. That's cool too.
yeah, that's
That's
super
cool
dope.
too.
Like
Yeah,
that's love for, I'm saying it's not just taking it all for yourself. It's, you know,
yeah,
everyone that participated already. Super,
yeah. That's
super
dope.
dope, you know.
That's dope.
But no, I hope to, bro, I hope to meet you in the future. Best
Yeah,
of
I
luck.
just not in the wintertime because Chicago, boy,
Check.
I tell you, man, I had a Sherlin with the I don't I had I want to say this was the most warmest coat in the world, and I was staying downtown, and I opened up the hotel door, and I swear I walked 2 feet out, and I said, nah, I gotta go
You
back
go.
inside. And so never in the wintertime. I'm not going to Chicago in the winter because y'all winters is
Yeah,
brutal, man,
it's
for sure.
if you would have been here, what was it, 3 years ago? We had the worst
Yeah.
one. We had the
Oh,
polar vortex and it was negative 30.
yeah.
It was
Yeah, I'm
so
cool
bad
with
they
that.
shut the city down. Like it
Yeah, I'm
was
cool with that.
literally, yeah, it was like I'm used to it because I'm from Chicago, but yeah, anyone that's coming to Chicago, I don't recommend
Yo,
it.
I
It's
I speak to people about New York and they think it's cold. And here's the truth: I don't wear a coat in New York. I don't care if it's 20 degrees, 30. I don't wear. But Chicago is different. I'm telling you, whatever
yeah,
happens out that wind is like. So yeah, man. But shout to the Shy. It's been a great market for me. I love being out there. I love the people out there. I love the artists, the talent that comes out of Chicago is
hmm
amazing. So you're in a really really great city for sure.
yeah, no, but I thank you so much for agreeing for this because I know, like you were saying, I
Yeah,
thank you, I
it's all
appreciate
good.
you. Yeah, I've been a big supporter, big fan, and like I said, hope to meet you in the future. Definitely stay connected, and yeah, bro, appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it,
Okay,
man.
well, have a good weekend and stay safe.
Same to you,
Okay,
for
thanks.
sure. All
Peace.
right.